With that, I am delighted to introduce our speaker today, Lynette Sorrentino with Chaos to Boss. Lynette, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I really feel it as an honor and a privilege to be able to share some things with you today. I just hope that there's one nugget or two that someone could take home and be able to utilize and impact and help their life a little bit. I see some familiar faces on here, so it's great to see you. I know we've got some seasoned entrepreneurs on here as well, so I just hope that maybe, I think no matter whether you're brand new or seasoned, we can always be learning something from someone, right? Even John Farley Bradway might be able to learn something. I don't know. He knows a lot. He's pretty wise, but maybe I can teach John something. You're on mute, John. So anyway, how did I become an entrepreneur? How do I start this? Well, I started 30 plus years ago. I've always been one of those career-minded, pretty focused, if I find something, I want it, from the standpoint that I was in middle school, grade school. I wanted more money for clothes and my mom couldn't afford it. So I said, if I get a job, can I have more clothes? And she said, yes. The next day I had a job. That's kind of where it started, right? So I became a secretary because I wanted to do anything I did well. And then I realized that I was getting in trouble for talking all the time. So I decided to pursue sales because it was the only place that I knew that a woman could make as much money as a man without a college degree. So I pursued sales, corporate sales, did very well. My first sales job was in the long distance industry. How many of you are old enough to remember when you dialed 10 or 15, 20 different digits to access your long distance? Remember that? I was one of the first salespeople in Lincoln to do that. And my biggest objection was, what's LT&T going to do to me? So we went from there to, I became a sales manager of 3 locations, as well as then became the director of sales and training for the company. And really, I'm in my mid-20s and I'm just figuring it out as I go. I had no freaking idea what I was doing. But where I really went into the entrepreneurial scenario was that I moved from Colorado with that job back to Nebraska when the economy fell apart in the late 80s. Anybody remember that? Oil and gas tanked. Things went crazy. So I came back home from Colorado to Nebraska to regroup. And I was working for a radio station, selling advertising, selling air. And I saw my boss, who was there in the morning, and he was still there when I went home at night. And I was thinking, I'm a kind of a vision person, and I was thinking down the road, how am I going to balance this with the day that I get married and have a family? And I just couldn't see that that was going to mix. I knew I was not built to be a stay-at-home mom because I wanted everybody to grow to adulthood, and I would have killed the kids if I would have been a stay-at-home mom. So my kids are now 20 and 24 at the end of the month, which coincidentally we adopted. But I had the foresight to start an independent business, so I had the opportunity to pursue a direct sales career with Mary Kay, which is a great entree into entrepreneurship, much like franchising, because there's a lot of things that they figure out and do for you while you're trying to figure out what in the heck you're doing. And the whole motive behind that is I wanted to be like the stay-at-home mom and still have a successful career. And that's how it got started. And I've just always been very passionate about that because it's given me, what I realized about myself is I'm very much about family. I'm very much about freedom and flexibility. I'm very structured with my time and routine, but it's because I choose to instead of someone putting me in a box and saying I have to. Anybody else get some rebellion with that? When someone tells you this is when you have to do something, you don't want to do it, but you'll do it, So I didn't want to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning and stay there until 6 o'clock at night working for somebody else. But guess what? Working a full-time job selling radio advertising and then adding Mary Kay to it. Was I working 60 jobs, 60 hours a week? Yeah, I was, but it was my choice. So it's a whole different perspective. And I'll date myself here. Here's where I'm going to try to blend in a little bit of some things I learned along the way, perhaps some stories to give example or just not be boring about what I learned. And probably date myself a little bit, but I certainly had to learn how to be productive and organized by day, because if you're working a full-time sales job, that's a 40 to 50 hour a week job, particularly in radio, because they want you to do all these remotes and all these specials and what have you. So figure out how to work Mary Kay into that. And here's the other creative part. We didn't have cell phones. This is in 1988. So I always had quarters in my car. And when I had a break in between appointments, I was going to Village Inn and plugging it into the payphone to make appointments. because I couldn't get a hold of people sometimes at night. So I would use a break in between appointments, or I'd use my lunch break, and I always had plenty of quarters. And that's how I prospected and made appointments when I started my Mary Kay business. So I certainly learned how to prioritize. And food for thought, we are managing our activities. We do not manage our time. You cannot manage time. All you can do is manage what you do with it. Okay, so that's a little tidbit. So, and the thing I notice a lot when I talk to people, observe people who are entrepreneurs, is particularly if you've moved from a full-time job to being an entrepreneur, the biggest struggle is you're so used to doing the tasks of the job and plugging that 8 to 5 in. And there's a different skill set to learn about what is moving the needle, what is creating income, what is it moving down the pipeline, because working your list to be productive in what I call IPAs, not a beer, income producing activities. You know, to have an income producing activity is a much different activity as a new entrepreneur than it is just working the task list and working the emails and the callbacks and all of those things. And when I need to probably introduce a little bit about chaos to boss, but when I work with people as chaos to boss, that's a lot of what I'm showing entrepreneurs to do, is how to adjust the focus. Because instead of being a support role, you're now in the money-making role. You know, you're the president, you're not the assistant. So with chaos to boss, I call myself the boss lady, and I work with people to help them go from chaos to boss in creating structure and routine and how to do things. But as I've done that, and I'll tell you a little bit more towards the end how that's evolved, but it's become how to sell like a boss, how to parent like a boss, how to lead like a boss, because those are skill sets that I found that entrepreneurs really need to help grow and build their business. They don't always have the support system to do that. So the other thing I learned was quickly how to market to different businesses, because in radio advertising, I was doing B2B. Well, if I'm selling Mary Kay, I'm doing person to person, right? So a whole new way of marketing, whole way of approaching people, really developing the people skills to talk to people. And I think when I can sell like a boss, but I sell like a boss because I'm working through education and teaching and training and building relationships and trust. It's not like a hard close selling cars or, you know, like I'm a relationship person. So if you're in sales, I think you have to evaluate what kind of sales you like. Do you like a long sales cycle or short sales cycle? Are you relational? Are you transactional? I'm highly relational. And that's how I've learned to grow my Mary Kay business, you know, coaching business, any of the things I've done in my life. I think the other thing that makes a difference is when I was working with radio, I was straight commission. I had a little bit of a draw, but it was pretty much straight commission, of course, going into Mary Kay. You know, and within 6 months, I was ready to leave the radio station, and I started doing Mary Kay full time. And I did that, a lot of it was because I was just frustrated. I wasn't enjoying it. It was time to leave, and I wanted to do Mary Kay full time. Had I replaced my income? Heck no. And there was a whole new learning curve. And direct sales doesn't take 40 hours a week to do and build a successful career. In hindsight, I probably should have stayed on board a little bit more and just created my goals a little bit differently, or maybe just taken on a little bit different job to create some income so there wasn't the financial pressure that was there. But I do think that when you are on straight commission and you're you know, building a full-time income, you have to act as if there's no other option, as if you burned the ship. You have to act that way and have that mentality so that you will grow that business to where you want it to go. Because otherwise it's just like someday, which you know is not a day of the week, right? Someday is not a day of the week. And if you don't have your back to the wall on some level that way, either mentally or literally, I think that makes a difference on how quickly you get into your goals. The other thing I really learned with Mary Kay was they had a high level gold standard of service in the principles that Mary Kay Ash designed the company. And if I were to look at, and I've talked to so many people who've been with Mary Kay before that are now entrepreneurs or doing their own thing in some way. And they've said, you know, Mary Kay was such a great proving ground, training ground for me to launch me into the career that I'm in now. And I think it was because of the culture. When I look at, if you're a solo entrepreneur, it maybe not make as much difference, but if you're becoming an entrepreneur or multiple employees, culture is key. If you want to keep employees on board, creating that culture and the esprit de corps and camaraderie, there are lots of women who stay in Mary Kay, not because they make any money, but it's because of the culture and the friendships and the camaraderie that are there. The gold level of service, that if they could not, it was always about under promise and over deliver. Always under promise and over deliver. And when you are doing that and going the extra mile. I remember a couple of times where they never ever had a backlog or a backstock or backwards on things, but when they did, they made sure they got that product out and they put some freebies and some extra product in there as a thank you. It was always above and beyond and exceeding expectations. And when you exceed people's expectations, they will always, always, always remember you and come back to you. Let's see, I certainly learned how to network before there was networking. It's a whole different world right now, but I think part of that, where I'm going with that, is we always have to be willing to pivot and adjust, even if it's 1 degree. You know, we all learn to pivot with COVID. As things evolve into this, you know, when we're not as much on COVID, you know, there's part of Zoom that I will keep, but I still want to meet people face to face. So it's always being flexible. Early in my life, I dated one of the strength coaches at the university. And I don't know if any of you know this, but there's a sign that at one time, I don't know if it's still there, was above the weight room of the strength complex. And I've always remembered this saying. John, do you know what it is? You're nodding your head. It says, the sign is, the great ones adjust. The great ones adjust. And you always, I think as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, always have to be willing to adjust and be flexible. And I think that's really, as entrepreneurs, we don't inherently like structure. We don't inherently like routine. We don't like having bosses. That's kind of how we are. So we are flexible. But on the flip side, the more structure you have, this is what I learned, particularly as I got married and had kids and operating a business. Actually, the more structure you have, the more flexibility and freedom you have. And for a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, structure and routine, they were adverse to that. It's like, no, I don't want structure. I don't want routine. I don't want to be put in a box. That's almost like a 4-letter word. The difference is of course, because you're creating it, but the more structure that you create in your own world, then you're going to find yourself much more efficient on how and what you do, but also it's going to give you much more free time. If you're always responding and reacting to the to-do list or to the inbox, what happens is you're totally in react mode, you're in urgent mode, and you're being the thermometer instead of the thermostat. You want to be the thermostat, and that's through doing the structure and routine. So anybody have employees? Anybody have staff? Nobody? Should I skip that part? One quick thing I'll mention though is, if we haven't already learned, that this was a hard lesson for me because I'm a feeler. I'm one of those people that, you know, when I watched Flipper and Bonanza and all those, okay, I'm dating myself, I know. When I watched TV as a kid, I would see some of these shows and they would get me and I would be emotional and I would cry. I would even cry at commercials. Okay. So where I'm going with that is, people will always disappoint you. And I think there's a point where I had to learn how to catch and release. I had to learn to look at people not just based on their potential, but did they walk their talk? And I think that's true with employees. It's important with team members, and it's important to customers. You can really tell, one of my favorite quotes is, how you do anything is how you do everything. And if you start watching how people live their life in one way, it's usually a good indicator of what's going to ripple over and roll over to another scenario. And it was really hard for me to experience that disappointment with customers and team members. Maybe they didn't want to become a customer anymore. They wanted to quit the business with me because I got personally and emotionally attached to them. And that's where my catch and release is coming in, is that I had to learn to discern who to work with that was really willing to do that and who I was enabling, because I'm a recovering enabler. I'm a recovering rescuer, okay? Because I wanted to help everybody. That's why I do what I do, is I want to help everybody. But we have to learn that discernment of who really wants to be helped and who wants to help themselves, and who's really just looking to, for counseling and learning for you to just babysit them and enable them. Let's see here. People skills, communication skills. Mary Kay was a master at this. And a couple of really key things I learned from her was, one, everybody deserves the benefit of the doubt until you know the story. How many times has something happened and you've gotten irritated, mad at someone, and then you get the real story and it's like you kind of got egg on your face? One of my perfect examples of this was I had talked to someone who was going to be one of my hostesses. I had talked to her like the same day. It was in the fall around Halloween, you know. I talked to her and I told her what time I was coming over. I had a new team member coming to watch the party. Show up in time, the whole house, everything, you know, because daylight savings time had come. It's in the fall, right? The whole house was dark. No porch light, no lights on in the house, no street lights, dark. And I went, what the heck is going on here? There's nobody here. I just talked to her this afternoon. What's going on? So of course I had to wait until I got home and called her on the landline before I had my cell phone. But what I learned was she and her friend were carving a pumpkin and a knife slipped and her friend sliced her hand open and they were in the emergency room. So I could have called her the next day. Thank goodness I had this training for one of my mentors. I could have called her the next day and said, well, what happened? And what happened to your party? And what's going on? And yada, yada, yada. Or I just called and say, hey, you know, did something happen? Is everything okay? Giving everybody benefit of the doubt. One, they're going to feel better if they, I guess, one of two things. You giving them the benefit of the doubt gives them a place to not feel guilty or feel bad and honest. And if you assume the best, they're going to be more open and honest about why they really didn't follow up on their thing. And you just never know what happens in people's lives. I mean, I've had people, you know, not show up for something and they got in a car accident. You never know. One of my other mentors said this woman at this party was just rude and crappy. And, you know, there's just that heckler. We all have a heckler at some point in time, right? In what we're doing. And she just killed her with kindness, was kind, was nice, didn't treat her any differently. The woman called her the next day and said, you know, I was really grumpy and grouchy. I probably was a bitch to you. But the reason I was that way was because I just found out a couple of days before that I had cancer and I was dealing with it. We never know what's going on in people's lives. And I think we're in a world right now where it's so easy to just react instead of taking a breath and responding. You know, my tender heart in me, when I would get a letter from someone, or we all get that crappy, horrible email, right? That someone attacks us. I always sleep on it before I respond. Because another lesson I learned is when emotions are high, intelligence goes low. And when you get that crappy email, your emotions are high. So sleep on it, take a breath, and you're going to respond in a whole different way than if you are, than if you just let the emotions go from you. Another rule of thumb I have is it's kind of with the benefit of the doubt, but it's my little tagline I've created. Ask, don't tell. That's how you give people the benefit of the doubt. Ask, don't tell. So one of the other things, I'm looking at my notes here so I don't keep rambling on. How am I doing on time, Steve?
You're doing fine.
I'm doing okay? All right, cool. I think this is one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs and a hard thing for me to do because I can be a type A and there's things I can only do the way I can do them, right? I had to learn how to delegate. And you know, one of the best pieces of, I had a great mentor when I first got into sales and he said, I've used this for 30 plus years. Do what you do best and hire everybody else to do the rest. Thanks for the thumbs up, John. Do what you do best and hire everybody else to do the rest. And he was so incredibly right. My first experience with that was, I was just busy working the full-time job doing Mary Kay, doing balancing checkbook, accounting, all that stuff was never one of my strengths. And so I actually called my accountant one day and I said, I've got a question to ask you. And I said, asking you to do this is probably harder and more difficult than even going to the gynecologist. And he started laughing. And I said, I need someone to write my bills, budget my, you know, help me do a budget, write my bills, pay my bills, write out the checks, etc. And I, you know, he was my accountant. I ended up hiring his wife and she paid all my bills, did all the checks and stuff like that. Because that was a thing where, because I was trying hard to work, working very hard to make money. And when I was in that making money mode, there was more needing to go out than coming in. And so I didn't want to deal with it and it stressed me out. So then I just didn't want to pay the bills. Anybody ever been that place before? But they needed to get paid. So I just delegated it to her. I quickly learned to get, you know, an office assistant to do the things that I couldn't do. I hired my kids to put labels on my product, because why not teach your kids some work ethic? If they did the chores in the house, that's what they did. If they worked in the office, they got paid because they were working in the business. And that's how they learned that they could make extra money. They learned how to go out and work to be able to get return on it. And what I've learned over time is there are people who have strengths and skill sets that are opposite of mine, that they can do a much better job than what I can do when I do delegate that out. And I wanted to free up my time. And I had another thought with that and I just lost it. Sorry, give me a second. So I had the office assistant, I had a bookkeeper, I had my kids doing the stuff with the product, which it really freed my time. And I think as an entrepreneur, as you grow, you need to be able to scale. And if you can't master the delegating part, you're never going to be able to scale and be able to have the freedom and flexibility to have the lifestyle. And why do people become entrepreneurs? It's because they usually want freedom and flexibility. And there's also finances that get involved with that. But if we are not delegating that out, then how do we ever have the free time to do that? And usually the person that we delegate to is going to do it a lot better than we are. And releasing that control becomes, I call it my board of directors. You should always have people around you that do something better than you can do, and then you can focus on doing what you do best and have the freedom and the flexibility to do whatever you want to do. So what drives me to do, why do I stay perked up? I've had 30 plus years as a solopreneur, working full time. I did take a day job for about 6 years, which I'm currently doing because life happened. I had some different goals. So I'm currently in a corporate job as well as building my coaching business. But I had to come back to being an entrepreneur because I didn't like working for the company. And I do a great job for my customers, but it's not my lifetime work. I'm getting old enough that I just don't want to work for that corporation anymore. But what gets me perked up and excited is I've always loved coaching and teaching. That's always been my strength and whatever. But I want to be able to help entrepreneurs and families because I see a lot of people who have higher level jobs. They're building a business, they're working a job, working a side hustle, trying to work their kids. And I see particularly ladies do this because, let's be real, the women are running the household, they're doing their jobs, and people are stressed, they're exhausted, they're overwhelmed. There's a lot of guilt that's going on because we can't do everything we want to. There's always something that we're feeling like we need to do that we're feeling guilty about. And I was really, really blessed in my direct sales world to be able to have a great balance between kids and family and working. When my kids grew up with me working in the business, they didn't think that I had a job. A couple little stories with that is my son once said to me, it was around Columbus Day, and he saw the bus driver. He was in kindergarten and he saw the bus driver and said, "Mom, there's Mr. Mike. Where's he going with the bus and with all those kids?" And I said, "Well, it's like Columbus Day or, what day it was." And I said, "Well, they're going to Adventure Club because their moms and dads are working. So they're going to Adventure Club so that they can have a place to go because they don't have school today." And he goes, "I sure wish you had a job so I could go to Adventure Club." That was his perception. We went to a cafe and he saw the people going back and out one of those, country cafes where the doors are swinging, going back and forth. And he goes, "What are those people doing?" I said, "Well, they're the waitresses and servers and they're going back to the kitchen and get the food and bringing it out to us." Now keep in mind, his dad and I were both working from home and they're going in and out, and he gets this pensive look on his face and he goes, "But where do they sleep?" Because he thought everybody worked from home. And so if they were working there, that they were also sleeping there, and that's where they lived. Then when he got the fact that I was actually working, then he said, "Well, Mom, do you have to go to work?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, and he kind of made a face, and I said, "Well, do you know why I work?" And he said, "No." And I said, "I go to work to make money. Do you know why we need money?" And he goes, "No." And I said, "So you can have Happy Meals and video games." And he went, "Okay." And I was fine with that. And I think where I'm kind of going with that is that I was able to do all the field trips, all the stay-at-home mom stuff when my kids were sick. When my son was 10, he was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic. That changed our world. But that allowed me to be able to be at home and learn how to do all of that and do all the things I needed to do with him. You know, he's now almost 24, but he's a brittle diabetic. He's also got alopecia. He's got a bunch of some other health issues. If I were working a traditional job, they would not have the patience with me and the flexibility that I can have now. So whether the times are really good and you want to just have extra vacations, and to me, a 3-day weekend really means a 4-day weekend. You leave Friday morning and you come home on Monday night or Tuesday morning. That's how you do a 3-day weekend. You know, there's that. That's just how you roll and how you do those things. But I don't think people realize that you can have those. I see what perks me up is being able to show people who are new entrepreneurs, who are mompreneurs, you can have work-life balance. Not really. You can have a harmonious life. There's no such thing as work-life balance because nothing is ever in balance. We want this to be like this, right? Doesn't happen. It's about focusing on what you can focus. Thanks, Don. It's focusing on what you can focus on and being present in the moment. Check out of that compartment and go into the next one. So you're present. Or you're present with your kids. You're present with your job. You're not thinking while you're working with your kids to be doing the stuff. So how I've elevated that is really working with people and showing people how they can have that and have a harmonious family, creating structure and routine. You know, let's get real here. Let's let the kids do some chores. You don't have to do it all, even if it's not perfect. You know, yeah, I'm seeing lots of noddings of heads. Call me an old-fashioned farm girl, but when I watched people working with their parents in their homes, whether it was direct sales business or on the farm or whatever, kids want to be in our world. That's the one thing I noticed with my kids. Kids, look at granddaughters on your lap, right, Jody? Kids want to be in our world. And I think as a lot of parents are so guilty because they're having to work the job, that they're all about their kids' activities and all the focus is on the kids, when in reality, sometimes the kids want to be in our world. And it's not what's taught, it's what's caught. And what they can catch from us is discipline and work ethic and how to deal with disappointment and how to set goals. There's so many things that we can teach our kids as entrepreneurs. And if I do anything in this world, I want to teach moms that it's okay to give yourself permission, and moms and dads, either one. I want to teach them it's okay to give yourself permission to be super successful, and your kids are going to observe and watch you and catch that. And the more that we can do that, we can do all of it. We can have a great family life and we can have a great career and successful life. And that's what gets me going. And that's the whole mission of why I do Chaos to Boss, is I want to show people how to create that structure, the routine, how to create that sense of balance in their family. COVID actually helped me, spurred me to do this because I was doing the full-time job. I actually created my own planner, Chaos to Boss Planner, because we all wear multiple hats. And that's exactly what it's designed for, is when you're wearing multiple hats, whether it's multiple roles in your job or multiple jobs or whatever it is. So I'm going to do one quick thing. And Steve, you can help me sort this out.
Okay.
We'll open up to questions. But I have Mary Kay's autobiography, which is a must read for anybody in business because there's too many skills, too many things you're going to learn that I could just kind of give you a tidbit on, because she was a master. So I've got a Mary Kay's autobiography and my planner. I'm going to give away one of each of those today. I don't know how we're going to do it. We'll figure it out, but I'm going to give that away. Maybe who has the most questions? I'm just kidding. But Steve, we'll take it from here. I'll let you take it from here.
Okay, great. Are there any questions for Lynette? Thank you so much. A lot of great tidbits in there, a lot of great advice that could benefit virtually anybody. So thank you for that. Any questions for Lynette?
Kathy, raise your hand. Yes.
Yes. So I'm just starting my business and I'm getting a lot of input that I need to do a vast majority of my marketing on social media. You've been doing this for a longer time and have had multiple opportunities for marketing. Could you maybe weigh in on that?
I will. And social media has been on my radar, but I think here's where you have to do what you do best and let everybody else do the rest. Go back to that, okay? I'm relational. If you're going to commit to social media, first of all, you have to commit to it and make sure that you've got the skill set and the bandwidth to do that. I'm not on social media marketing my business right now. There will be a time I will probably do that, but one, I want to get my program and what I'm doing, I want to get it a little bit more perfected, and really the power of network, the power of networking through, I know you remember Centersphere, through the power of networking and family and relationships. I think it's doing two things as a new business owner. It's helping you perfect and do what you do better, because 6 months from now, you're going to do what you do a lot better than you do it right now, because that's just a natural progression of things. So that's a good way to start, you know, getting traction, getting some steam, getting referrals, getting the network going, and the power of relationships. I went from, you know, really hard hustling and pulling doors to really networking from one year to the other in the full-time job. I went from 100% pulling doors to the next year doing 66% referrals by just focusing on referrals. So I think that with what you do, you can do that because you can only have so much time to do your organizing. If you get to a point in your business where you want to scale it more and do it more virtual and create, you know, online courses and programs, then I would couple the social media with it. But right now, I think you could probably grow your business very, very well by just a lot of the networking you're going to do. And you're going to find, I've seen people and entrepreneurs within here in Lincoln that are solopreneurs doing similar stuff with you, that they've gotten so busy they've had to almost leave the organization because it just perpetuates itself. So unless you're really ready to commit to that, because it's a consistent thing you have to stay with. And if it's a new thing you don't know a lot about, I would push that down the road.
Thank you. I appreciate your insight.
You're welcome.
We have time for one quick question, and then we'll do our giveaways.
I just want to make a quick comment, two, very short. First one, I'm on here. We're making the comment about what I knew at the beginning and I was muted. I'm on here because I'm still learning. That's the first thing. Second thing is doing what you do best. When I started my business here, when I bought Keo, I knew what I could do. My strengths were interconnection, marketing, design, and sales. And so I hired an accountant and an office manager the first 30 days I was in business. So that's why I was doing the thumbs up, because do what you do best. Otherwise you're wasting your time.
Yep. And you're spinning your wheels and you're very, very frustrated.
Yep.
Totally.
Excellent comment. Thank you all. And Lynette, thanks again to you for taking the time to be with us. I hope you'll continue to join us in the future whenever you're free on Thursday mornings. So
we'll do that. Can I one quick plug? I'll just mention, so it's on the audio in addition to the chat. If you want to get any information a little bit more about what I do, you can go to chaos2boss.com. Got a website, chaos2boss.com, and on there's also a tab for my planner. So that's probably the easiest way as far as audio, and going on YouTube if you want to reach out or get in touch with me.
Okay. And Lynette, what do you want to give away first?
Let's give away the Mary Kay autobiography.
Okay. The biography will go to the person with the next birthday. So anybody have a birthday coming up that's in the next few months?
Anybody in
Shout it
January,
out.
February, March? April?
June.
June.
Okay, we have
what
a
day is
June.
it, John?
26th.
No, that's my birthday.
No, that's my birthday.
June 26th. We'll have to go celebrate our birthdays together. Okay, you got it.
Well, I don't know, somebody else.
Okay. Does anybody else have a birthday before June?
Oh, mine is April 4th.
Oh, Quentin. Okay.
Okay.
Give it to Quentin.
Okay, the winner is Quentin, and thank you for that. Okay, now let's see. To give away the planner, how do we want to do that?
I want to see Quentin's birth certificate.
Not a bad point.
I'll look it up on the church resources.
There you go. We'll sort this out. Okay, to give away the planner, what should we do?
The last birthday of the year.
Well, let's do it that way. The last birthday of 2021. Do we have any Decembers? Any Novembers? Octobers?
me.
Hey, Brooke.
Okay. Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. Brooke is the winner of the planner. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Just a reminder, next week, we have Jill Swim, and Jill sounds like she's got a lot in common with Lynette because she's a multitasker. She's got a realty job and she has a side gig as a photographer. So join us next week for Jill Swim. Check out our courses online at the Southeast website. And again, I appreciate everybody being here today, and stay well out there.
You too.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Good job, Lynette.
Bye-bye. Thank you.